Welcome to Healing Heart Talks. Today we explore why people completely isolate themselves and cut ties when facing overwhelming life pressures. Have you ever noticed someone you love suddenly pulling away, retreating into absolute silence during their most difficult and challenging moments? It often feels like a personal rejection. We mistakenly believe they are angry, hostile, or simply do not care about us. However, this sudden withdrawal is rarely about hostility or arrogance. It is actually a deeply ingrained biological response to extreme stress. When the human nervous system becomes completely overloaded by trauma, it desperately seeks a way to survive the intense emotional storm. Imagine a city experiencing a massive power grid failure. The system shuts down non-essential sectors to prevent a total catastrophic collapse. The human mind operates in a remarkably similar way. When emotional pain reaches its absolute peak, the brain initiates an emergency protocol. This incredible survival mechanism forces the individual to disconnect from the outside world, preserving whatever tiny amount of energy remains inside. It is a silent cry for safety, a desperate attempt to shield a fragile heart from further damage and unbearable exhaustion. Pushing people away is not an act of hate. It is an act of sheer preservation when everything else feels overwhelmingly chaotic. To truly understand this phenomenon, we must look deep into the complex architecture of our autonomic nervous system and its ancient roots. We are all familiar with the fight or flight response. It is our body reacting to immediate danger with high adrenaline energy. But what happens when fighting is impossible and escaping is not an option? The body must find another way to survive danger. This is where neuroscience reveals a fascinating truth about human trauma. We enter a profound state known as the dorsal vagal shift. The dorsal vagal shift is our most primitive defense mechanism. It is the ultimate freeze response when stress exceeds our maximum threshold. In nature, when an animal is trapped with no escape, it plays dead. Its heart rate drops, and it becomes completely immobilized. Humans experience a psychological version of this exact paralysis. We freeze emotionally, numbing ourselves to the unbearable pain of our current reality. During this intense freeze state, the brain deliberately cuts off social engagement circuits. Connecting with others suddenly feels incredibly dangerous and exhausting. The person is not choosing to ignore you. Their nervous system has literally hijacked their ability to safely interact with the world. They are trapped in a biological lockdown. Every single ounce of their internal energy is redirected toward basic, fundamental psychological survival needs. Think of psychological bandwidth as a finite resource. Every day, we wake up with a limited amount of mental and emotional energy. Normal daily activities consume a portion of this energy. Working, talking, and making decisions all require a specific amount of cognitive bandwidth. But when a major crisis strikes, it demands an astronomical amount of mental resources, leaving almost nothing for normal everyday social interactions. The mind essentially declares energetic bankruptcy. The emotional bank account is completely empty, and the system can no longer afford any expenditures. In this state of severe depletion, even the simplest text message or a friendly phone call feels like an impossibly heavy burden. A well-meaning question like, "How are you doing?" becomes an emotional tax that their exhausted brain simply cannot afford to pay today. They do not lack love for their friends and family. They simply lack the neurological currency required to process and reciprocate connection. Every social interaction requires masking, empathy, and active listening. For a bankrupt mind, these basic human behaviors require monumental, exhausting physical effort, so they retreat into the shadows. They build an invisible fortress around themselves, hoping the silence will finally allow them to recharge. This self-imposed isolation provides temporary relief. The overwhelming noise of the outside world fades, offering a brief moment of quiet, necessary peace. However, this protective strategy carries a hidden danger. What begins as a temporary shelter can quickly transform into a permanent, lonely prison. When we stay in a defensive posture for too long, our perception of reality begins to distort in subtle and dangerous ways. The silence inside the fortress grows deafening. Without external perspectives, our darkest thoughts echo loudly, reinforcing feelings of worthlessness and deep despair. Prolonged isolation tricks the brain into believing that the world is inherently unsafe, making the prospect of reconnecting seem increasingly terrifying daily. The walls built to keep out pressure eventually trap the person inside with their unresolved trauma, creating a vicious cycle of suffering. They desperately want to reach out, but the heavy iron gates of their own defensive fortress feel entirely impossible to push open. Friends eventually stop calling, assuming their presence is unwanted. This unintentional abandonment further confirms the isolated person's deep-seated fears of being unlovable. The tragedy of the freeze response is that it isolates us precisely when we are in the greatest need of human connection. We are fundamentally social creatures. Our nervous systems are beautifully designed to heal and regulate through safe, compassionate interactions with other humans. When we cut ourselves off entirely, we deny our bodies the very medicine required to thaw the ice of our emotional freeze. Understanding this complex dynamic changes everything. It shifts our perspective from feeling personally offended to offering deep, unconditional empathy and patient support. If you are the one waiting outside the fortress, remember that patience is vital. Do not force the door open with demands. Instead, leave a gentle light on. Send a simple message expressing your love without expecting any immediate response or detailed emotional explanation. Let them know they are safe with you. Safety is the ultimate key that slowly unlocks the frozen state of their mind. And if you are the one hiding inside the walls, please know that your reaction is a completely normal biological survival response. You are not broken, and you are not a bad person for needing absolute space to process your overwhelming pain and exhaustion. Your body did exactly what it needed to do to keep you alive during a period of immense, unbearable psychological stress. But remember, the storm outside has passed. It is slowly becoming safe enough to lower the drawbridge and let light inside. You do not have to tear down the entire wall today. Opening a tiny window begins the beautiful process of profound healing. Healing from a dorsal vagal shift requires gentle, consistent signals of safety. It is a gradual awakening of your dormant nervous system. The journey back to connection is delicate. It begins with acknowledging the massive weight you have carried entirely on your own shoulders. When we experience intense trauma, our bodies store that heavy memory deep within our cellular structure, affecting how we breathe daily. The chronic tension in your muscles physically manifests the invisible shield you unconsciously built to deflect the world's overwhelming daily demands. Recognizing this physical armor is the first crucial step toward dismantling it. We must learn to consciously release our internal tension. Deep rhythmic breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It sends a powerful message to your brain that immediate danger has finally passed. As your breathing slows down, the protective ice around your heart begins melting, allowing tiny rays of emotional warmth to enter. You might suddenly feel a wave of sadness or grief. This is a positive sign that your frozen emotions are finally thawing. Allow these complex feelings to flow naturally without harsh judgment. They are merely melting remnants of the emotional winter you just survived. Finding safe spaces is absolutely essential during this recovery phase. A quiet room or peaceful garden provides profound neurological soothing healing effects. Nature has an incredible capacity to regulate our overwhelmed nervous systems. The gentle rustling leaves whisper a calming melody to anxious minds. Slowly introducing brief, low-pressure social interactions helps rebuild your psychological bandwidth without triggering another massive defensive freeze response in your exhausted brain. A simple smile from a passing stranger or a short chat with a barista serves as vital stepping stones toward full reconnection. You do not need to attend crowded parties or engage in exhausting emotional conversations immediately. Take small, manageable steps forward every day. Rebuilding trust in the outside world takes significant time and infinite patience. Celebrate every tiny victory over your powerful urge to hide. It is completely acceptable to set firm boundaries. Letting people know you need quiet time prevents your fragile energy reserves from draining. True friends will deeply respect your need for space. They will patiently wait outside your fortress, holding a lantern of hope always. Sometimes, professional therapy provides the safest environment to explore the complex roots of your trauma and isolation without facing harsh external judgment. A skilled therapist acts as a compassionate guide, helping you carefully navigate the dark, confusing corridors of your fortified emotional defense system. They teach invaluable tools to regulate your highly reactive nervous system, slowly expanding your capacity to handle life's inevitable daily stressful challenges. Remember that healing is never a perfectly linear path. There will undoubtedly be days when the urge to retreat feels overwhelmingly powerful. When setbacks occur, practice profound self-compassion. Forgive yourself for needing temporary shelter and gently encourage your brave heart to step outside again. As you gradually rebuild your resilience, you will discover a newfound strength hidden deep within the vulnerable core of your authentic spirit. The very sensitivity that forced you into hiding can eventually become your greatest superpower, allowing you to connect on incredibly profound levels. People who have survived the darkest depths of isolation often emerge with an extraordinary capacity for genuine, unconditional empathy and loving kindness. You begin to recognize the subtle signs of the freeze response in others, becoming a beacon of safety for those trapped inside. Your painful journey through the lonely wilderness of disconnection ultimately equips you to guide weary travelers back to the warmth of community. Community is not merely individual people. It is a living web of interdependent nervous systems, silently supporting and regulating one another daily. We are biologically wired to co-regulate. A calm, grounded presence instantly soothes a highly agitated mind without a single word being spoken. This is the incredible magic of human connection. We lend our neurological stability to those who temporarily lost their own internal balance. So if someone you deeply care about suddenly disappears into the shadows, do not take their silent retreat as a personal attack. Recognize their desperate need for biological conservation. Offer them the profound gift of unwavering patience and steady, non-demanding, compassionate, emotional presence today. A simple message saying, "I am here whenever you are ready," can be the exact lifeline, saving them from eternal, terrifying darkness. It removes the heavy burden of immediate obligation while simultaneously providing crucial reassurance that they are not forgotten, abandoned, or entirely unloved. Breaking the cycle of isolation requires a delicate dance between respecting crucial boundaries and offering gentle, consistent invitations to safely reconnect daily. We must culturally redefine how we view withdrawal. It is a severe psychological injury requiring careful rehabilitation, not a character flaw demanding punishment. Just as we never force someone with a broken leg to run, we must not force an exhausted, overwhelmed mind to socialize. We must create a society that understands the complex language of the nervous system and honors the fundamental need for restorative solitude. When we remove the heavy stigma surrounding mental exhaustion, we make it infinitely easier for people to seek help before complete collapse. Imagine a world where saying my psychological bandwidth is empty receives the exact same understanding as saying I have a terrible flu. This profound level of societal empathy could entirely prevent the tragic, long-term consequences of extreme isolation from destroying countless beautiful, loving relationships. If you are currently trapped in your dark fortress, listen carefully to these words. Your current isolation is not your permanent, final destiny. The heavy fog clouding your exhausted mind will eventually lift. The terrifying perceived danger will slowly pass, and your energy will return. Until that beautiful morning arrives, treat yourself with utmost gentleness. You are surviving a massive invisible storm that nobody else can truly see. Do not let deceptive silence convince you that you are unloved or entirely forgotten by the busy world spinning outside your window. There are people who deeply miss your vibrant light. They are patiently waiting for the heavy clouds to part so you shine again. When you feel even a tiny spark of readiness, reach out. It does not have to be a grand, exhausting, emotional conversation. A simple heart emoji sent to a trusted friend powerfully signals that you are slowly emerging from your deep, dark, emotional winter. Every small connection acts as a warm ray of sunlight, melting the thick ice, paralyzing your highly sensitive nervous system for months. Embrace the beautiful vulnerability of letting someone witness your messy healing process. True connection is forged in the raw honesty of brokenness. You do not need to be perfectly healed to be worthy of love. Your fragile, recovering heart is entirely enough right now. Let us collectively pledge to become a safer, compassionate harbor for those navigating the terrifying, turbulent storms of psychological burnout and trauma. By offering judgment-free space and unwavering patience, we can help dismantle the invisible fortresses trapping so many beautiful, deeply hurting souls today. Healing is a collaborative masterpiece.
We did it.
It requires the profound courage of the isolated and the boundless compassion of an understanding, welcoming community. Never underestimate the incredible, transformative power of a gentle presence. Simply sitting quietly beside someone in their deepest darkness brings bright light. As we conclude our deep dive into emotional isolation, take a moment to gently reflect on your very own personal, meaningful relationships. Is there someone currently retreating from your life? Send them a silent wave of love, honoring their desperate need for temporary safety. Are you the one hiding? Place a gentle hand over your beating heart and softly thank your incredible nervous system for surviving. The world can indeed be an overwhelmingly harsh place, but it is also filled with breathtaking moments of profound grace and connection. We must continually strive to build sturdy bridges of empathy, reaching across the vast chasms created by fear, exhaustion, and unresolved trauma. Together we can slowly melt the defensive ice, allowing the beautiful, vibrant warmth of shared human experience to flow freely once again. Thank you for sharing this meaningful space with us today. Your willingness to deeply understand these hidden struggles makes our world better. May you find peace in your journey. This has been Healing Heart Talks, wishing you a gentle, restorative, and profoundly connected day.